Welcome to today's episode of r/Today I Did an Oopsie. Tifu picking up the wrong person from the airport and getting pulled over at gunpoint by the police. I live near a smaller airport and I help out at the local Turkish community center. I'm white but I go to a free dinner they do every other Thursday and it is amazing. So I chose to volunteer every once in a while. Set up, take down, help older people out. The usual volunteer at a center thing. I've met a ton of awesome people and they are a blast to hang out with. So last week, I was tasked to pick up an older woman flying in from Turkey as she was the guest of honor at a fundraiser they were having. I was told she knew little to no English and I wasn't the first choice to go get her. I was just the only one available seeing everyone else had bigger jobs to do. They give me a sign with her surname on it, her flight number, and a general description of what she looked like. Whiteboard in hand and a little hesitant, I set off for the airport ready to get my cargo. I pull up to the international gate and immediately an Eastern European woman standing all alone. I get out with my sign that says Amir and she smiles with great joy, points at the sign, points at herself and without hesitation, loads her bags in the car and hops in. Last name? Check. Eastern European? Check. Not much English? Check. Can't believe my luck. I pull out of the airport and immediately head in the direction of the Turkish center with my passenger all buckled up ready for the 35-minute drive. About 15 minutes into the ride, she pulls out her phone and begins to rustle around. She calls someone and frantically speaks in Turkish. I'm thinking she left something on the plane or at home. I felt bad but I couldn't do anything about it at the time. I was driving in the freeway. 10 minutes later, I'm off the freeway and a cop passes. He immediately flips a beach, lights me up and I pull over. At this point I'm freaking out and when I turn around, I see the lady has Uber out and upon further inspection, I'm not the Uber driver. The cop tells me to get out and I am taken down very fast by a plethora of cops, handcuffed, and put in the back of a squad car with zero information. My head hurts from the slam against the ground and I'm fully aware of the kidnapping situation I'm in. After about 15 minutes of the lady screaming in Turkish to the police and other cars arriving, an officer opens the door and asks me my story. I ask him to use my phone to contact the Turkish center and the lead woman comes down to explain what happened. Little did I know Amir is one of the most common surnames in all of Turkey. So when the lady, her first trip to America, see that I have her name, she figures I'm the Uber driver ready to pick her up. She knows how to use Google Maps and saw we were headed in the opposite direction of her intended destination. My heart is still going 10,000 beats a minute while another car with a friend from the center and what could be the real Demir pulls up. After a discussion that I'm not a part of takes place, the cops get me out of the car, unhandcuff me and everyone, including the kidnapped woman, seems to be laughing. Except me. I am in disbelief as of to what just happened and I definitely sweated through my entire outfit. We get back to the Turkish center and the story spread like wildfire. Everyone comes up to me with a hug, a laugh, and a drink. I got drunk. Too long didn't read by picking up the wrong woman and getting arrested for kidnapping. First names count. People, edit, detained, not arrested. Also, talking with Turks. They all have varying degrees of where the country resides. Eastern is too white, middle is bad in America, so most of them just say they are from Turkey. Tifu by asking my neighbor who died, so this happened like 2 hours ago, but it needs some preface. About 3 weeks ago my neighbor saw me dressed in all black leaving for work and he asked me, who died? I laughed. He laughed. We all had a good time. Today, I'm heading to my car, and I see him and his wife dressed in all black so I obviously asked, who died? His wife breaks down and starts hardcore crying. Turns out her mom had just died. She then proceeds to lecture me about making fun of death as she is still crying at a 6/10. Her husband never said anything about the fact that he made the same joke 3 weeks ago, which is fine. I wouldn't have either. So now I'm gonna avoid her forever. I know it's not the craziest Tifu, but now I'll respect death forever. Too long didn't read. I asked my neighbor who died, and it turns out someone had actually died. Got a nice lecture on death. Tifu by failing to check one of the most important aspects of a wedding, nearly ruining the ceremony. I used to work as an event manager on a large cruise vessel. The managing staff was Italian, save for a few, and I was one of those exceptions. The official language on board was English, but the real official language on board was Italian, and I did not speak a single word. Miscommunications were part of everyday life. One of my responsibilities was the coordination of weddings on board. We had several private venues which could be used for a ceremony, but some couples preferred the public reception area. It had a fountain and 2 beautiful shimmery staircases that went down from deck 7 to deck 5. The open balconies on deck 6 and 7 allowed the other 3,000 guests to join in on the festivities, making it a real party. We'd have one junior officer escort the bride down the stairs and one ordained senior officer perform the ceremony. It goes without saying that couples who chose the reception area for their special day had often spent a fair amount on the wedding dress and wanted to be seen. This story is about one of those couples. On this specific cruise there had been a mistake with the bookings. We had 8 weddings booked in 3 days, which was an almost impossible challenge. I'd somehow managed to convince 7 of the 8 to use the same venue on the second day of the cruise, one after another. We started at 8 AM and ended that evening at 10 PM. The only couple left insisted on using the reception area on the last day of the cruise. They had a very clear idea of what their wedding should look like, and had brought a list on board with special requests and details. The last day came, and by this the time the staff, including the officers and me, were tired. Tired people are prone to making mistakes, which was definitely not convenient for a wedding like this one. So I was running around double checking every detail. The ceremony was scheduled to take place at 9 PM and by 8 PM everything had been smooth sailing. Until I received a phone call. It was the bride, in tears, begging me for help. The back zipper of her beautiful, puffy, strapless dress had broken, and because of all the pulling the dress had also ripped. There was a gigantic hole in the area of her derriere. I grabbed 2 tiny emergency sewing kits and some duct tape and ran to the rescue. Me and the mother of the bride put the beautiful, but sizable, bride face forward onto the bed, and as her mother was holding the dress together, I sewed it shut, trapping the bride into her dress. We secured it with some duct tape, decorated the veil over it, and voila, disaster averted. Never in my life have I seen a bride more happy and grateful. By the time we'd finished I had only 10 minutes left to get to the venue, check everything and provide both the staff and the guests with instructions. I stormed off and ran into the junior officer, Lorenzo, who was on his way to escort the bride. In my best Italian English I warned him, Lorenzo, listen. The dress is broken. So when you escort the bride, please walk slowly. Okay, va bene. He replied, okay, va bene. And I put 2 thumbs up. And another thing, please wait until I phone you, because we are not ready. Va bene? Va bene. I finally met with the wedding party, my face red and my armpits sweaty. I told the groom where to stand, bonded with the small child who was going to give the rings, and checked the setup. By this time the other 3,000 guests had gathered on the 3 decks, looking out for the bride and waiting for the ceremony to start. I was in the middle of relaying instructions regarding the music to the DJ, when the crowd started cheering. The eyes of the DJ had widened and he pointed up to the staircase behind me. I turned around and there he was, Lorenzo, with the dressed bride on his arm, making typical brisk Italian hand movements that silently inquired why nothing was ready. Well, duck. I urged the DJ to start playing the music, dragged the groom into place, picked up the kid with the rings and dropped him next to me at the beginning of the wedding aisle. With 3,000 faces staring at us, Lorenzo started walking down the staircase, slowly. At least he'd understood that part of my instructions. And when he handed the still-dressed bride to her soon-to-be husband, I let out a sigh of relief. Everything was okay. I straightened my uniform. The couple started walking down the aisle and the DJ switched to the correct song. All good. With 6 steps left to the end of the aisle, the groom gave me a look of confusion. I instantly panicked and quickly went over the checklist in my head. Perhaps with all the stress and tiredness I'd forgotten something, but all their specific requests were honored. What was he confused about? And then I looked aside. Behind the wedding podium was nothing. The ordained senior office, who was supposed to perform the ceremony, was missing. I hadn't checked his presence. I looked at Lorenzo, whose eyes nearly popped out of his head. He took out his phone, but I thought to myself, he will never be here on time. It's too late. 4 steps left. So, With a red but straight face, I took a step aside and picked up the microphone. I signaled the DJ, whose eyes were possibly even larger than those of the junior officer, to lower the music, and then, with 3,000 faces looking back at me, I scraped my throat and in my best wannabe ordained voice, I began. We have all gathered here today. Now at this point it might be relevant to mention that I have severe stage fright, but I knew that if anyone would notice that this was not the normal course of events, this couple's wedding would be ruined. I tried to keep my cool. When I said I, senior officer, pronounce you, all I could think was I am in so much shit. But my voice did not tremble when I pronounced them husband and wife, and they were so happy. Of course, afterwards I had to report to the director. I could hear my own heartbeat and didn't know where to start. In my best Italian English I made an attempt at an explanation. Capo, something happened. I married the wedding couple. The director looked up from his desk and asked Luciano, was not there? Luciano was the senior officer. No. He continued, I am the couple, happy, Felice. He paused for what felt like a small eternity before he said va bene. I put my thumbs up. Va bene. Too long didn't read. I failed to check one of the most important details of a wedding I was coordinating. The presence of the officiant. I started without him, almost ruining a couple's wedding. I then performed the marriage myself, illegally, because I am not ordained. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.